shocking. I haven't been to Japan on a Rotary type trip for 20 years. I was in Japan 6 years ago, but for a long time. But the last time I was doing Rotary business was 20 years ago, and that's what brought me to this town. And I am currently in Hamamatsu, and that it is in this town where I did a group study exchange as the team leader from District 6690 from the Columbus Rotary Club. So we came to Hamamatsu. Hamamatsu is, I don't even know how to explain it. It's between Osaka and Kyoto and Tokyo, but not really. It's in that part of Japan. It's very famous for music. The Kawaii and Yamaha pianos are made here. But it is also super famous for its automotive roots. Yamaha and Suzuki motorcycle are both headquartered here. But the food that's famous in this area is eel. And if you don't like eel, you're in a bad place because everything has eel in it. Miso soup has eel in it. Their cakes have eel in it. It's kind of gross if you're not an eel fan, which I'm not. So we're not staying here a long time. From here, we're going to Nagoya and then Tokyo to visit friends and Utsunomiya to visit friends. That's where Honda is. Then we're going to Gunma, which is famous in Japan for their rally racing, their road racing. So of course, my child is along and he's a big, big car fan. A lot of our things that we're doing on the trip are car related. So it's a weird trip for me. I've never done car stuff, motor stuff, really, in Japan, but that's what I'm doing. So I am here at Suzuki headquarters. I don't know if you can see it. I mean, it's enormous. It goes this whole length. It's probably about 5 city blocks. That's all factory in both directions. When we came off the train this morning, practically the entire train was Suzuki workers in their uniforms, very traditional in Japan, very normal. So anyway, I'm in Japan and I'm having a great time. We're probably only 10 days. No, we're only a week into this trip, which is so awesome. Time is standing still, which is fantastic. Here comes another train. But does anybody have questions? I am on my cell phone and it's going to get kind of noisy probably. If you have questions for me about Rotary or whatever in Japan, Rotary is very, very, very prestigious in Japan. It's kind of like it used to be in America, very difficult to get into Rotary. So when you connect to Rotary, they take you to the absolute best restaurants and give you the best souvenirs and cake. And we've been eating cake in our hotel room. I'm going to be so fat when I come back. That's okay. Anyway, Rotary is an awesome connection here. And there's Natsuki. Suki-san. Hello. So I'm at Suzuki in Hamamatsu right now. And it's getting hot. Anyway, let's see. I can't see if you have questions. Do you have to shout out questions, anything? Because if not, we're going to get started with Joe, who is, oh, I do have Rotary business. The Rotary business is, I'm not going to be there for a social meeting in May. So I'm canceling a social meeting for the month of May. We'll talk about June later. If there are any other things, I really don't have anything. Steve, your field trip was awesome. We already reported on that last time. I don't think there's any business. Jim, is there business I'm forgetting, actually?
The only other business, we can discuss it maybe after Joe gives his talk. So I'd like to hear from Matt, report on him attending PETS.
Ah, great idea. So Matt, get your report ready while you're listening to Joe. Joe is fantastic representative of the wilds. Many of you have been to the wilds in Zanesville, actually outside of Zanesville. And it's an incredible, incredible facility that many Americans don't even know about. Ohioans don't know about it. The most remarkable thing I found, Joe, is that in Cambridge, where I live, most of the people have never been to the wilds. And what's even worse is the people that I have talked to that have been to the wilds don't really care to come back again. So I don't understand how they're missing the enormous impact of what the wilds is doing on a global scale, not an American scale. It's an incredible facility. Most of you know that I'm a tour guide there, so it's like one of the lowest level jobs you can have. So we're going to go from my job to Joe, who is the vice president of the wilds. He sits, of course, on the top level management for the zoo family, Columbus Zoo family of parks. And so he has the most up-to-date information, of course, influence way, way beyond anything I could imagine having myself at the wilds. But it's an incredible facility. And if you haven't been there, we need to talk about doing another tour because it would be so fun to have you all out again. But Joe is a veterinarian. He comes from, where do you come from originally, Joe? I forget.
I was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
I knew that. So he doesn't at all sound like he's from Louisiana because he spent a lot of time up north at Fort Wayne at the zoo there as the CEO. And we're just so excited to have you at the wilds. I think it's wonderful for us. And today he's going to tell us about some of the coolest things that are going on, remarkable initiatives that the wilds has not only started, but are very, very deeply involved in participating in. So with that, I'm just going to hand it over to you, Joe. And if I dip, I'm so sorry. I'll catch you later. So Joe, take it away.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. And it's a pleasure being with you guys here tonight from all over, it sounds like. I do have some slides that I want to share because it's not easy to talk about the wilds without seeing parts of the wilds and the imagery that goes along with it. And I assume that some of you may have been there, but likely many of you probably haven't. So I wanted to kind of tailor this talk to sort of both ends of the spectrum, give everyone sort of an introduction to what the wilds is and what we do, but then also insert some of the updates of some of the newest things we're working on that Chris mentioned, and certainly be open to any questions at the end. And Chris is right. We often get that the folks that live around the wilds haven't been to the wilds, or they went 30 years ago and just haven't been back. I think because they think it hasn't changed or upgraded, but the fact is we're changing every year, and no two visits are ever the same, even if in the same season. So we do encourage folks to come back, and in fact, most of our visitors are repeat visitors. Once they come, they get hooked and they come back year after year. It's often an annual tradition. So. All right, I'm going to see if I can figure out how to share the presentation, but make it a. Are you guys seeing the actual presentation or the other one? You're seeing the presentation?
Yes.
All right, perfect.
You're good.
All right, so Chris has already shared a lot of this, but my name is Joe Smith. I'm the vice president at the Wilds. I am a veterinarian, but I don't do any clinical veterinary medicine anymore. About 8 years ago, I tell people I went to the dark side of administration, but the truth is I really enjoy it. I love kind of working through others and helping to support others as they do the important work of conservation in our facilities. So. I've had 21 years in senior administrative experience. I lived for 18 years in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So somewhere between Louisiana and Indiana, I lost that southern accent, I suppose. And I've been at the wilds for the last 2.5 years. Just a little bit of history about the wilds. The land that the wilds is on now was surface mined for coal through the 1940s to the 1980s. We say just under 10,000 acres, or we round up quite a bit, but it's at 9,154 acres that was donated by AEP to form the Conservation Center. And in 1984, the Wilds was incorporated as the International Center for the Preservation of Wild Animals. But that name clearly doesn't roll off the tongue quite as nicely as the Wilds. So they quickly changed the DBA to be the Wilds. And we opened to the public in 1994, which those of you that do quick math will know that that's an anniversary year for us. So we are celebrating our 30th season this year. And so that's one of the things that we're really highlighting this year, and that's all the things that we've accomplished over these 30 years. We're gathering photos and images from folks who have visited in the past and kind of doing the then versus now. We're doing promos every month to thank all of our guests and supporters from over the years. And we've got a couple special events. We created this new logo, so there's lots of merchandise and things with the logo. This logo has on it the Przewalski's horse, which was an endangered species, and it was the first species that was ever brought to the wilds for the conservation programs 30 years ago. So I'm going to show you a video to kind of get us started. The wilds is one of those places you really have to visit to really get a full feel for what it's like. It's not your traditional zoo, and still images don't quite do it justice. Video is the next best thing, and drone video is probably the closest thing you can get to experiencing it. And so we've got a lot of drone video footage in this video that can show you some of the things we do. I'm gonna be quiet for a little bit, and it's just a couple minutes here. So because of the space that we have, we're able to specialize in large herds of large species. So we really hone in on things like rhinos and giraffe and other ungulates, some of the equids and antelope, because we can, unlike traditional zoos, we can maintain them in large dynamic pastures that allow them to have the same social grouping that they would in the wild. And these large habitats, these social groupings allow them to exhibit the full range of natural behaviors. It's really as if they're living in the wild, and we bring people through their habitats. So it it really is a unique place. There are not very many conservation centers like it. There are a couple others that we work very closely with, but we all have our own unique twist on conservation and how we operate. So it's again one of those things that's very unique amongst zoos and conservation centers, and you got to come to really experience it yourself. But we are part of the Columbus Zoo family of parks, along with the Safari Gulf and Zambezi Bay, and we operate under the common mission of empowering people and saving wildlife. Our strategic plan that we've recently rolled out involves three primary strategies. First of which is advancing wildlife conservation, animal well-being, science, and conservation education to best-in-class levels. Strategy 2 is leveraging our parks and programs to create year-round destinations. And the third is more of a sustainability piece, but that's to ensure that the Zoo in the Wilds remains a relevant and treasured institution for the next 100 years. And one of the ways we check ourselves is through accreditations. We are, since 1996, been accredited by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. That provides the gold standard for animal care amongst zoological facilities. Just last year, we became certified with Humane Certified, and you may know them from the film industry, where they often have the clause at the end of the credits saying no animals were harmed in the making of this film. They have a certification process for zoological facilities as well, ensuring that animal welfare and animal well-being are maintained at the highest levels. And just this year, we joined the World Association of Zoos and Aquariums, which is a membership that joins zoos from all over the world that maintain high standards. So our bread and butter, and something that you've probably heard Chris talk a lot about, she's one of our tour drivers, is our open air safaris. Our pastures each one of our pastures is larger than most traditional zoos. Our pastures are 100, 200 acres each. So animals like the Persian onagers you see here and the greater one-horned rhino, are able to roam freely in these large herds. We have these modified buses that drive along the paths, and for about a 2.5 hour guided tour, we take our guests and introduce them to these endangered species, and many of which they've never heard of or never seen in other zoos, because they are so unique. Like the Persian onager, that's not one that you'll see elsewhere. It's an endangered wild horse from the Iran area. And so this is our main tour, but we can also upgrade and do what we call a wild side tour. We have trucks that have been modified that allow you to go off-road. So unlike the open air safari that has to stay on the gravel road, the wild side tours can take you off-road and get right up to the animals, so you can get those nice, great photos. These are Sichuan takin. It's a goat-like antelope from China. They live in the same habitat as the giant panda, the black and white panda that we all know. These guys are some of the smartest animals we work with, some of the toughest animals we work with, but also some of the cutest babies who like to gather in these little creches or nurseries, if you will, where they play together, and they have a babysitter that kind of watches them during the day while moms go out and forage. But really cool species, and again, no place else outside of China will you see this many Sichuan takin in one place other than the wilds. We have a lot of specialty tours as well. You saw in the video earlier, someone zip lining. We have 10 towers, 10 different zips that take you over our animal pastures and over some of the lakes. Or there's also a shorter half course zip. We do these at sunsets. There's even a howl at the moon one in the middle of the night you can do for that extra twist. So, lots of again, a unique experience. We do horseback tours. These go through our butterfly prairie area, so not in with the other animals, but you get to see some native habitat, including pollinator-friendly flowers that are just gorgeous in the summer, and attract a wide variety of birds and butterflies and bees, native bees, that really are important parts of our native ecosystem. So we talk a lot about that. The guides, will narrate and provide information about some of those native ecosystems as well. We also do fishing. It is catch and release. I'm told we probably have some of the largest bass in the state of Ohio because of that catch and release management practice. And I saw a picture just today of a fish caught this weekend that was almost twice as big as the one in the picture there. So we have our guides that will take you out either on a boat or on the bank and help show you how to do it. All skill levels, whether you're a pro or just starting, they'll help make sure you have a good time catching a fish and enjoying time outdoors in nature. We do have a lot of people that come from out of state. I'd say a little over 1/4 of our guests come from outside the state of Ohio. And those folks come from pretty much every state in the US. We had a TV show called Secrets of the Zoo that ran for many seasons that just brought a lot of national attention to the wilds and has attracted an audience from really all over the world, but particularly all over the country. And so those folks come, and there's not a lot of places to stay around the wilds because we are about 30 minutes from the next largest city or town of Zanesville, which has hotels. So we provide some of our own lodging for guests, and there's lots of different tiers, if you will. One is the lodge. We just have a single lodge that sleeps 12, and it's a really secluded area back in the woods, very private. It's got its own private lake. Great place for family reunions or corporate retreats. These are our cabins at Straker Lake. We have 7 of those. Each of those sleeps 6 people. Great for families, great for larger groups. There's the Straker Hall there in the middle is a great place for meetings or gatherings. Has a commercial kitchen in it. I tell you, some of the best night viewing in Ohio can be done from these cabins. There's the least amount of light pollution in the entire state around the wilds, just because there are no cities and towns around that are emitting light up into the atmosphere. So you can really see the stars, the Milky Way, shooting stars, the satellites, the space station, all those things as they shoot by at night. It's really spectacular. Those cabins, the folks who helped fund that had a partnership with a group called the Mighty Oaks Warriors, and the Mighty Oaks is a not-for-profit that provides emotional support to first responders and military, either active or retired military, that just have addiction problems, PTSD, other challenges. And 1 week every month, we host this program, and they run a week-long program based out of our cabins. And these are serving our first responders and military from all over the country. It's just something we're really proud to do. They allow us to join in at the graduation ceremony at the end, and it's a really touching, just moving experience to hear some of the firsthand accounts of from some of these participants. So really great program, and something that most people don't know of and don't really think about being associated with an animal facility. Nomad Ridge is probably our most famous lodging area, and those are our yurts, or Mongolian yurts. Some folks call it glamping. It's sort of a high-end camping, and we have several of these. They've all been recently upgraded this year, and so it's adults only. Each one sleeps two. Comes with tour, breakfast, and seated dinner. And drinks by the campfire, by the fire pit, and it overlooks our pastures. So if you're there in rut season, the Pear David deer, their rut call sounds like a belch almost. So all night long you'll hear them, so folks are really enjoy that experience. It makes for a great story for everyone. So. But yeah, you're right over our pastures, so you get to see those animals, which, as you probably know, most animals are most active at dusk and dawn, and so these lodging opportunities really let you see the animal behaviors at their peak. Another place you can do that is our outpost, which is literally a fenced-in area in the middle of our pastures. You've got rhinos on one side and giraffe on the other, and this is cots and tent camping, but it's just you and your group or family, plus one employee that has to stay out there for safety reasons. But you get locked in the fenced-in area at night, and you've got the place to yourself. Another great place to see the stars at night and watch really incredible animal behavior as they're active after everybody else has gone home. One of the new projects that Chris wanted me to tell you about is a new lodging opportunity that we're currently building, and that's a new RV campground. This is a 75-acre campground that has 74 spots, 2/3 of which are full hookup, a third of which are primitive. But this is on the north part of our property, an area that was in the early mining areas, so it was eligible for some grant funds to help do some of the site work. So we've done some of the work, and the construction for the buildings and utilities is starting this summer, and we plan to have that open and fully functional by spring of 2025. So we're really excited about this. It offers a lower price point and for overnight guests, and also allows for a lot more people to spend the night on grounds than we previously had. So and there's so much to do with the wilds, it's hard to get it all done in one day. So we really do encourage people to stay multiple days to experience all that we have to offer. So next is kind of the heart of what we do, and that's conservation. We are a conservation center, and we have lots of really interesting conservation programs, both locally and globally. And one of the local ones is this little guy. This is an American burying beetle, and it was the first invertebrate to be added to the endangered species list. It has since been removed from the endangered species list, but not because it's doing any better. It got removed for political reasons. So they're still struggling. They used to be found across the U.S. They're now kind of limited to a few islands of population, dotted in a few areas. And what we're doing is bringing beetles from Nebraska each year, and we breed them in our breeding facility. With each generation, we multiply the numbers by, exponentially. So we do a couple of generations of breeding through the winter, and then the next summer we have hundreds of beetles that can be released the next year. And so we are doing these reintroduction of these beetles onto our grounds, and they specialize on decaying carcasses. It was once believed that they co-evolved with the passenger pigeon, and that may be one of the reasons they're declining, is because the passenger pigeon is now extinct, and these guys don't have as many carcasses of the right size to their young. Burying beetle that specialize on different size carcasses, and those are doing better than the American burying beetles. So we do feel that the size of those carcasses is one of the reasons. And pesticide use, wide-scale pesticide use, certainly is another factor that's impacting all insects. But these guys certainly are impacted by that as well. So. The animal you see on the left there is an eastern hellbender. It's got a funny name. Some of its other names are even funnier, like old lasagna sides or snot otters. But really, they're a salamander species, and they're the largest salamander species in North America, third largest in the world. The Japanese giant salamander and Chinese giant salamanders are the largest. They look very similar. But these guys are an indicator. They're found right here in Ohio. They're an indicator of a healthy stream system, and they don't have gills as adults, and they have vestigial lungs, and so they do all of their respiration across their skin. They absorb oxygen across their skin and excrete the CO2 across their skin, and so they really need clean water and well oxygenated water. And they're very sensitive to contaminants in the water because they absorb so easily through their skin. So, so any sort of toxins in the environment cause problems for these guys, as does siltation from agriculture and just disturbing of the river systems. These guys live under rocks, they breed under rocks, they lay eggs and protect the nest under a large rock. And and all of their food lives under rocks, but if all of those spaces under the rocks get filled in with sediment and silt from agricultural runoff, they have no place to go. And that's one of the reasons they're in major decline across many states. So very similar to the burying beetle, we're doing head starting of these guys. We will collect nests, an egg nest from the wild, and we'll grow them out until they're large enough to where they are less likely to be eaten by predators. These guys, when they're really little, will get eaten by bass, by otters, by other predators. But when they reach a certain size, they get too big for those predator species. So by head starting them in our facility, we're able to get them past that critical size, and it increases the survivorship of the total number of young produced by that egg mass. So we are doing that for both Ohio and West Virginia, and are seeing some success with that. These guys are the cutest. I think everybody recognizes them as cheetahs. We're one of just a few facilities that are a cheetah breeding facility. And cheetahs like to pick their own mates. So we found out early on that in a traditional zoo where you might only have one male, one female, the cheetahs didn't always agree with who we picked to be their mates. And so breeding success was not so great, and the sustainability of this species in managed care was not doing too well. So we quickly found that if the cheetah picked its own mate, the breeding success rate went up significantly. So these cheetah breeding centers were created that could have enough space to house multiple males, multiple females, and have the facilities set up where the animals can kind of walk by one another and see each other through, fences, so protected areas, and basically tell us, hey, this is who I'd like to be with. We can tell through their behavior who they're going to get along with and who they not. And if we see signs of compatibility through those fences, we can then mix them, and that has really increased our success rate of breeding cheetahs. And so we have just in the last several years exported several of our cheetahs to other breeding populations, including Japan, ironically, and also to Canada. But we're sending the cheetahs that we breed to be part of the breeding programs all over the world. Our rhinos are probably our most famous breeding success, and certainly they're in our logo. And we have two species of rhino. This is a greater one-horn rhino, also called an Indian rhino. We also have southern white rhinos. The greater one-horn rhinos are from Asia. We have not as many of those as we have our white rhinos. I think we've got 6, 7 maybe Indian rhinos now, and including 2 calves that were born this past year. Nothing cuter than a baby rhino, let me tell you. And this year we also had 4 white rhinos, so a total of 6 baby rhinos this year, which is I think a record year for us. So lots of little baby activity out in our pastures right now as the youngsters are interacting with one another and running around those grassy hills that you saw in those videos. But we are, for white rhinos, we're the first, 4th and 5th generation white rhinos born outside of Africa. So that's just a testament to the success of our breeding program. And we send rhinos, just like with the cheetahs, all over the U.S. to other zoos and facilities because of the success of our breeding programs. Some of the other conservation we do involves habitat restoration. We have an entire department dedicated to it. It's our ecology department, and they focus on native wildlife and native habitat. And so what used to be coal mine that was later reclaimed with grasses and things just to help with erosion control, including some invasive species that have really taken off. The coal mining companies did that just to satisfy the Reclamation Act regulations and to help with erosion control, but it doesn't really help with the biodiversity. And so our team is coming back after that and doing what we call restoration. So reclamation just kind of gets it back to a regular topography and gets plants in place to prevent erosion, but restoration provides some of the plant biodiversity that's needed to create a truly a habitat or an ecosystem that's native to our area. And so with the restoration work we're doing, we're primarily focusing on prairies, grasslands, because that's what grows the best in the mine spoil soil that we're left with. We found that trees don't grow so well in the mine spoils just from compaction and some of the other mineral and pH changes that have occurred. But we can grow prairie grasses, prairie flowers really well. And that helps not only our pollinators, but our grassland birds. We have, I just went through pasture today. And my eBird checklist had in less than an hour over 30 species. We've got lots of bobolinks and Henslow sparrows and grasshopper sparrows and savanna sparrows, which are some of the most declining species of birds right now. We've done a great job with wetlands. Our wetland species used to be in the most decline. And with all of the focus that we've had on wetland conservation over the last several decades, we've actually slowed that down and started to reverse that. But the next group that seems to really be in that rapid decline phase right now is our grassland species. So grassland birds really need our help, and we're doing a lot to help monitor and restore habitat for them. Part of that is controlled burns, and so we do these periodically to help maintain those prairie ecosystems. They're very interesting to watch, and we have to time those to certain times of the year to avoid the breeding season for the small mammals and the birds and the insects. But it's amazing how quickly after these fires the the prairie plants just rebound and with a vengeance. They just look so much healthier after that. So, scimitar horned oryx is a species we have. This white antelope with the sort of recurved horns there is from the Saharan part of Africa. This species was extinct in the wild until reintroduction efforts helped to bring it back. And some of the animals that were born and raised at the wilds were part of the original reintroduction back into the country of Chad in Africa. And this was one of those first releases that included some of the wilds born animals. And because the animals that were born and raised at the wilds were used to these wide open landscapes, they were some of the first ones out of the crate and are also some of the most successful in their breeding program. One female we know that came from the wilds has had at least 6 calves of her own, and the population has just really taken off. And there's several thousand now. And in fact, just last year, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, or IUCN, just recently downlisted the scimitar horned oryx from extinct in the wild, and they skipped critically endangered and went straight to endangered. So that's they downlisted them two levels, which is great news because of the stability and the growth of those reintroduced populations, and the wilds had a direct impact on them. We also have training programs. We try to educate and train the next generation of conservationists. These are some of our veterinary and animal management teams doing a field procedure on a Bactrian deer. The things that we learn from our research and from our training apply directly to conservation work that can be done in the field in the native countries for many of these species. But we have a residency program, a veterinary residency program that trains veterinarians in conservation medicine. It's a 3-year program. They start at Ohio State University in their first year. Second year, they go to the zoo, and then their third year, they spend with us at the wilds. And we have a variety of other internships and apprentice programs that provide training in all aspects of what we do. And it's part of our conservation programs to kind of pass that along to the next generation. So, some of our other education programs, we have, you saw in the video, some tents that look like our yurts, but are actually our wilde camp. It's a residential camp for kids, and you drop them off on Monday and pick them up the next weekend. So they spend the night every night at the wilds for a week, and they get to do really fun outdoor activities like canoeing, and they do the tours, of course, age appropriate, for like zip lining and fishing, and they tromp through the streams, and they look for, do health assessments on the stream invertebrates. And they help participate in some of our conservation projects like the burying beetle reintroductions and hellbenders, and they get to learn about all the great things that are happening. We even have one for teenagers called Dirty Wild Jobs, which is kind of an off take on the Dirty Jobs TV show, where it's basically a career exploration camp that gets folks introduced into veterinary medicine. They'll do fecal samples looking for parasites, like our vets and vet techs do, or they'll do a necropsy on an animal. We'll collect wildlife that helps them to kind of do that sort of dissection work to see why it might have died. And then they also get their hands dirty with cleaning and feeding and care for animals, which can often be dirty work. So. And again, this is tromping through the stream, just gaining an appreciation for what's in our backyards. This is just native wildlife, but it's one of my favorite things that our campers do is they'll go out, you get their feet wet, they'll take the dip nets, they'll just see what they can find, small fish, invertebrates, all sorts of things in the water. It's a really cool experience, and they learn a lot from that. One of the last things I've got is another new project that we're working on right now. Our current fundraising is focused on a capital campaign that's going to build a new giraffe barn. And this giraffe barn is going to increase our our capacity for our draft breeding programs to about 12 or 15 animals. And part of that is it's going to have an apartment associated with it. So another lodging opportunity where folks can spend the night and looking inside your bedroom window or your living room window will be a herd of giraffe. So that'll wake you up in the morning, and you'll have some special behind the scenes access with our staff to feed and care for these guys. But that's gaining a lot of excitement. The design process is mostly finished conceptually. We're ready to get to construction drawings here soon. And fundraising is going really, really well. We're hoping to start construction on this perhaps next year. So really unique opportunity, and we're really excited about that. So that's all I have. There's one thing I forgot to include in the presentation, and that's some of the work we're doing with our bison. We have a herd 60 head of bison, and we are changing some of our management practices so that we focus more on the conservation of bison in the wild, which is a little different than how we've managed them in the past. But we are forming new relationships with national parks and with tribal entities. And just last week, we had 74 bison that were sent to South Dakota to the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. And we're working with a group called the Intertribal Buffalo Council that's helping to put bison back on the natural landscape, the prairie landscape, where they're an important part of the ecosystem there. And it also helps to provide food sovereignty to some of the tribes that relied and evolved to alongside these bison for thousands of years. So they're helping to create that ecological niche. They're also helping to restore food sovereignty to these tribes. And we're working on a press release with some amazing video to help tell that story. That'll be coming out in the next couple weeks. So stay tuned.